Good morning. Good morning, listeners. We thought we'd start the show with some uplifting Bollywood music. Jalf is stuck on a jet or a speedboat or something like that, and you'll have my company for the time being. So let's get the show on the road. I've got a slide here. If I do some typing, you can tell it's a live show, and yeah, I have presentation here, and my name's Ammar Jalf, and I'm delighted to be here this morning with you on Friday, the 17th of September. And we have a wonderful, wonderful show for you this morning. Let me do a couple of things and share some screens and some activities. Obviously, for our listeners, you're not necessarily going to be able to see what we're presenting, but here we have it. We have the weekly show business show with Jalf and Ammar. I'm sure it's meant to be Ammar and Jalf. Jalf doesn't like it the other way around, but anyway, I'm all good for that. And each week, we bring you some news, views, and one or two clues from the business world. Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider business communities. And whether you have an existing business, want to talk business, or don't have a business, just want to talk about other people's business, we can help. We can help, and we do each and every week. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your continued support. Ever so grateful. And I'd like to think that all two of our listeners, obviously there's far more than that, but those that are actively listening, Martha and Ben from my team, are there attentively paying attention. But okay, so this week, what have we got for you? We've got a whole host of things. What's the business topic of the week? Business topic of the week. It's all about customer relations. So your customers are the most important part of your business. No customers means no income, and no income means that very soon there is no business. So planning and managing your customer relations and relationships is an extremely important activity. Customer relations are not quite the same thing as customer service. Obviously, good customer service contributes to a good customer relationship, but there is more to it than that. Customer service is largely reactive. For example, responding to complaints. A customer relationship is more proactive and includes both reactive and proactive elements. These could include marketing emails, asking for feedback, creating helpful content for your website, and anything that shows that you have put some effort into getting to know your customer, their personal needs, and their experiences. A recent study showed that 79% of customers only buy from brands that demonstrate that they care about their customers. Good morning, Jalf. Hey.
Good morning, Ammar.
How are we doing?
Good.
Oh, are you there? You know?
Yes.
Yes, for our listeners, obviously, when Jalf and I can see each other, so if there's ever a pause, it's acceptable when you're on video and in person. But when you're on the radio, when somebody stops talking, you wonder, have they been abducted by aliens? Are they still there?
Dead air.
Yeah, which is the most horrific faux pas in the world in radio broadcasting. Jalf, I just started talking about customer relationships and the importance of them. And the business topic of this week was all around customer relationships.
And it's obviously such an important part of any business, the relationship that you have with customers. And I guess, are you going to talk about all the different levels of that, Ammar, from the personal to the...
Well, I'll start the topic again, because I'd only done a paragraph or two, because I know that you are an exceptional advocate and expert in providing incredible customer service. So, it'll be helpful to get your view. Obviously, we're going to do that anyway. But equally, I think what's important is defining what we mean by customer relationships and not just customer service, because they're slightly different things. So I'll just revisit this, and with your permission, Jalf. Starts off with, your customers are the most important part of your business. No customers mean no income, and no income means that very soon there is no business. So planning and managing your customer relationships is an extremely important activity. Customer relationships are not quite the same thing as customer service. Obviously, good customer service contributes to a good customer relationship, but there is more to it than that. Customer service is largely reactive, for example, responding to complaints. A customer relationship is more proactive and includes both reactive and proactive elements. These could include marketing, emails, asking for feedback, creating helpful content for your website, and anything that shows that you have put some effort into getting to know your customer, their personal needs, and their experiences. A recent study showed that 79% of customers only buy from brands that demonstrate that they care about their customers. HubSpot, specialist in customer relationship management, defines positive customer relationships as long-term, mutually beneficial relationships between a customer and a company. If your customer relationships are well managed, you will improve customer satisfaction, retention, and loyalty. So the next question is, what sort of customer relationships should you be nurturing? If you sell clothes, your customers are unlikely to want much extended personal interaction in the way that they might prefer from a wedding florist. It is important to refer back to your value proposition and the customer segments that you've identified to work out which kind of customer relationships will work best for your business. This could be a combination. Banks, for example, now have fully automated online banking that allows customers to be almost entirely self-sufficient, but they also give customers the option to go into a branch or call a helpline to speak to someone. Another factor to consider is the length of your relationship with the customer. As a wedding florist, the focus is much more on acquiring rather than retaining customers, as most people will likely only need the services of a wedding florist once in their lives. On the other hand, a business selling clothes may want to focus on retaining customers and encouraging repeat purchases. It costs 5 times as much to attract a new customer than to retain an existing customer. So building the right relationship with current customers can be much more profitable than working exclusively on acquisition. The main type of customer relationships include transactional, personal assistance, long-term relationships, self-service, communities, and co-creation. They also all offer a slightly different relationship with your customer, and any one or combination of these type of customer relationships can play a role in your business.
Excellent. I mean, that's just that is so. There's so much depth and detail into that, and there's so much there's so many different dynamics to a customer stroke guest relations that you can have. So there's so many different levels of it, and like you said, Ammar, some of it is very personal, and some of it could be that customer relationship without even seeing another person face to face. So obviously the dynamics are so different.
That's the thing, right? As in, like any relationship, Jalf, it needs to be tailored, doesn't it?
Mm.
And I almost feel like your and my relationship is very much like that self-service online banking thing, because I don't really see you. We don't really have a personal relationship, but we transact in this way on a weekly basis. So I feel quite needy and wanted at times. But
I mean,
there's some element of
I think
satisfaction in the fact that I get to see you on a Friday.
Well, no, it's not even that. I think the guest relationship or the customer relationship, even if when you build loyalty towards a particular brand based on how they operate, based on the experience that you've had previously, you build that trust, don't you? So even if you're not in touch with that particular organization for, let's say, 2 months or 3 months, you know that you're going to go back to that same level of service, and that's what gives you comfort, and that's how you can have that long-term relationship, because you've already built that trust. I think where it all goes wrong, let's imagine that you've worked with a holiday maker for X amount of years, and they've delivered you amazing holidays, and then you've built a perception that, oh yeah, I don't know, Thomas Cook or whoever, they're a very viable operator, and they're going to always kind of give us X amount of service, and then something really horrendous happens and the company goes bust, and then all of a sudden everything's in the air. But I guess if they were worth their salt, I think they would still try and have that customer satisfaction in those difficult moments. You might have a little bit more trust within them and think that, no, actually they're not going to let us down because they're a reputable company. So that's still part of customer relations, isn't it, Ammar?
Oh,
well,
all of that?
Yeah, I mean, and if you imagine that was a new company without the reputation, they could fold and they could just run away, and you won't be able to chase your money because they don't really have that type of, they haven't built that reputation over the years, and they wouldn't think twice to kind of run away from whatever has happened. So I think customer relations, and we call it in hospitality, we actually, because it's a little bit more personal, instead of customer, we use the word guest, and we call it guest relations. So I think that's a slight difference, just because of the personal nature of it in hospitality.
And you should, and you know, it's there was an incredible interview that I listened to on Radio 4 not that long ago by someone Wala, a very prominent Indian restaurateur / chef in
Cyrus Todiwala. It's
yeah.
Cyrus Todiwala.
Yeah. So he was talking about his experiences and the term, and I don't know why I'm sharing now because I cannot remember the extent of it. But he said quite something unique, was we don't serve people, we sustain them or something like that. Anyway, it was obviously it left an impression so much that I can't even remember it. But it was the fact that he used an alternative word for a customer and for someone who was coming. And actually, it probably was, we sustain rather than serve. It was like, as in, we're giving people sort of sustenance. When you're feeding someone, you're giving them energy, you're giving them, something that's very, very powerful. And anyway, it was a fantastic story because he'd gone bust so many times. And do you need to put like a battery in your watch or something? Is that what you were doing? Or?
No, I was just giving it a little shake to waken it up.
All right, okay. Anyway, you need to get a proper watch. Anyway, but it was the fact that he'd sort of come across, he'd gone bust 2 or 3 times, but he acknowledged that. Jalf, it's quite interesting, isn't it?
Nothing to be ashamed of.
We've all been there. He was forced into it. No, but actually, there's this. We live in a world where if you've been bankrupt or if you've, failed, and he'd been bankrupt 3 times, yet he's one of the foremost prominent business people, and there was a variety of factors, and then anyway, the point was around customer service and his approach and the fact that it is someone that is a guest rather than a customer, because you treat guests a bit different, don't you?
Yeah, it's. I mean, when it's your guest, it's just a little bit more special. It's a little bit more intimate, a little bit more personal. It's a bit like when a guest comes to your house. Your demeanor is a bit different. So yeah, we like to use the word guest. There's a phrase that, and when we had the big chefs that came over, the Taj Group, which is a very, very prominent restaurant group in India, they have all the 5-star restaurants and very, very well to do. They have a phrase, and their motto is "Our guest is our God," and that's how they see their guest. They just like to run around for them.
I think God may take exception to that.
Well, I think, yeah, he may do, for sure. But I think that is actually a motto that they have as a part of their...
Yeah, I must admit.
Part of their vision.
Yeah, I absolutely, totally disagree with that. And I cannot believe they've got away with it, given the fact that they are an Indian group
operator. Yeah, but I think that is clearly a motto, because we've even when we opened Kai Kai, we had one of the chefs. He was from the Taj Group, and he made reference to those words.
Okay, listen, they would have paid millions of pounds to get this vision and ambition and all of those things. But if I'm a religious person, right, doesn't matter what religion I am, I might be Sikh or Hindu or Muslim or Catholic or Christian or whatever it is, but if I am a religious person, or at least as a bare minimum, I believe in God, then God is omnipotent. You cannot compare anybody or anything to God. It is the superior, supreme being. So naturally, I would be, in my head, reacting to that in such a way that it would be untrue. And I would never be able to live up to that vision or ambition because it's blasphemous.
Well, that's an important point, but I think they may have not have thought about all of the. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what. I'm wondering.
Do you not think? Do you not think?
Yeah, of course.
No,
I'm just wondering. I'm just wondering if they did have any.
From a sense of, so from a sense of how much your team can connect with a vision. Right? People come up with, we're going to be the best, right? We're excellent. I mean, even us here, we've come up with SME, Centre of Excellence, right? And the conversation I have regularly is what we're doing excellent? Because if it's not, we shouldn't be doing it. Right? So is this the best we can do? Because otherwise, we should be the centre of okay, or the centre of good.
Centre of God.
It's centre of mediocrity. All I'm saying is be careful of what people, and obviously I wasn't involved in the Taj type of things. So the exercise that we shared last week, clearly brings people into that, don't they? You develop your vision, you develop your mission, you develop your values as a collective. So I've got OCD, I've always had it. And for me, that's a big deal. So the values that I would like and I would expect is an aspect of being on time. That's not a big deal, as in turning up and doing your best. Because if you do your best, no one can expect any better. So that, as opposed to we are going to be, our customers are God. Treat our customers like a God, because well, that's not going to happen. Because I've never even seen God.
Most likely when I do see him, I'm probably gonna shiver to death, or I'll probably shake to death. So
I don't know if I want to see right sat here. I don't know if I want to see God, to be honest.
So if you imagine you kind of perform that statement literally. My guest is my God, and the guest comes in and you, whoa, hold on, I'm running away from my God, actually.
I'd be on my hands and knees. I'd be on my hands and knees, right? I'd not be doing anything. Is the thing. So anyway, we're tearing apart.
Okay, so maybe we can write to the maybe we can write to the Taj group and maybe get them to relook at their vision and their statement about.
We need to go in and offer them some support in creating a value and worth. Now, Jalf, years ago, when I started at TeleWest Communications, we went through a 2-week induction, and it was an incredible experience because TeleWest traced its roots back to Universal Studios and Charlie Chaplin and all of these people. So that sticks in my mind. But the other thing that stuck in our mind was, in the 90s, you would compare. They'd go, where is the best place you've ever had for customer service, right? And it was Marks and Spencer's at the time.
Okay.
So the quality, I mean, it was incredible, right? Because we used to get uniforms from Marks and Spencer's, and I was like, this is amazing. We'd go and get like blazers.
Imagine
worth like a couple of £100, and you were like, a blazer, like a couple of £100. At the time it was like, you wouldn't be buying yourself.
That was going to be my point. Marks and Spencer's to us back in the day was like the flannels of today, right? Yeah. So we used to think, oh my God, Marks and Spencer's is premium. And you know, it's got like super brands, and it's a super cool place. It's really, really the highest quality. My daddy's just got the best quality Marks and Spencers. And I mean, these days you walk through Marks and Spencers, you don't batter an eyelid. You wouldn't even shop in Marks and
Yeah,
Spencers.
well, it's obviously it's lost its you know, as in this is Marks and Spencer. Anyway, the adverts and all of that.
But the food is amazing, though.
No, listen, I still like Marks and Spencers. I love their shirts.
Really?
You know, they make good quality shirts. Yeah, they make really good quality. So the vast majority of
I'll have to start getting my shirts from there.
Well, they do a tailored fit shirt, and they're all and they're double cuff, and they're not necessarily cheap for work shirts, you know, because I wear them every single day and they get washed every single day, but they're good quality and they're a good fit. So I tend to wear those. There's a blatant bit of advertising for Marks and Spencer. Everybody's now going out to
all of our listeners are going to rock up at Marks and Spencer to buy work shirts.
I was wearing, you know, sort of.
I thought you were wearing Italiano tailored shirts.
That's only no. It's just my suits that are primarily, and anyway. Customer service comparables, but if you ask me now, Jeff, who provides the best customer service?
Mm-hmm.
How hard is that question to answer?
It is tough. I think, who would you say, Ammar? Where's the last place you went to where the customer service was amazing?
Where it was amazing, like consistently. I honestly cannot remember.
What about who's your mobile phone network?
Oh, why?
Because do you remember Orange back in the day? Who's obviously now it's EE.
So
I used to remember their customer service. It was unbelievable. It was so good.
Well, the future's bright. Well, the future's bright. So Jeff, here's the thing, right? When I was involved in call centers and customer service, it had to be exceptional. We were measured on statistics, how quickly we answered a call, how we dealt with a call, and I developed the complaints strategy for TeleWest for the call centers, which was rolled out nationally, and the director of TeleWest, Christine, went off to Hutchison and developed their customer service when they set up. So it was the director at our place who went off and put the customer service strategy and the customer relationship strategy together for Orange nationally. But you're right. And then if you think about from a banking point of view, was it HSBC came up with that other bank? Can you remember there was a special bank that if you were a
direct bank, the one with the black branding, it was Direct Bank or something, wasn't it? I think it wasn't. Was it HSBC? I don't think it was HSBC. It was someone else.
Was it? Well, whichever bank it was a
Direct Line or something, wasn't it?
Direct Line. No, that's the insurance. It was something like that. But it was considered to provide the best customer service, right? So this is what I'm saying to you now. You get pockets of good or exceptional customer service based on an individual, but I cannot, for the life of me, remember or think about right now. Isn't that sad? Because actually at one point, Jeff, right, I would hold up McDonald's whilst slightly false, right, provided a consistent level of customer service, especially if you were going through the drive-through. It would always be, good morning, welcome to McDonald's, please may I take your order? Would you like fries with that? Would you like a large? You know, and then thank you for your order, have a great day. That was the McDonald's experience. Now I tell you, now you go, what do you want? You know, it's like,
But I think
what?
wasn't that a bit robotic though? Because they used to really
Okay,
script,
no,
didn't they?
no, but for me, Jeff, it was consistent. Everybody had it. Everybody had the same experience.
Mm. Yeah. So what do you think some of that is lost in terms of the
Oh my
scripts?
gosh, undoubtedly. And then having come out of lockdown, right? Having come out of what we've come out of, everybody, and I must admit, there's on occasion that I have to catch myself as well, but everybody is far more impatient. Everybody is a bit more emotional, and everybody is a bit more emotive. So you react a lot quicker. You know, I was horrified couple of weeks back. I went to Tesco's, Jeff, right? And I worked at a Tesco's on a Saturday night 20 odd years ago, maybe longer. Well, no, it would have been longer than that. Anyway, a long time ago, when I was studying, I was working on a Saturday night, and it was great because you'd get paid like double time and a day off in lieu because I'd work on a Saturday, and because you would hit Sunday hours. There was all of this. This was before like 24-hour shopping came about and whatever else, right? And I remember the level of attention to detail when we were facing off the shelves, and you'd have to have everything perfect, and even frozen stuff. You know, when I first started, I got like stitched up because they put me on the freezers. So you can imagine your hands, even while you're wearing gloves, constantly dealing with frozen food and putting it, and then facing it off in like freezers and all of that. And it was like hard work, but everything was perfect. And even during lockdown, I remember going into Tesco's, and everything was faced off, and you know, obviously there was stuff coming off the shelves, but every time everything was. I went there the other day, and they were like chucking it on, Jeff. They were like throwing it on the shelves.
Yeah.
I was like, what's happening?
I think what's happened is because of the disruption to the workforce and the change of personnel, and there's been a huge kind of change in the labor force and movement. I think the movement within the working world has been probably the biggest ever in the history of the world, because of the pandemic, people have moved professions from one profession to another profession, and they've left huge voids. And because there's huge voids, now new people are coming into these voids, and they're not as slick, they're not trained up, they haven't been able to train their teams, and there has been this disruption in the flow of things. And I think it all comes down to that, because the McDonald's, they may have, if they had these brilliant scripts and the management team were able to implement them within the entire front of house team, because you know they were in a strong position, they had people that were staying in the jobs for a very, very long time, there was that longevity. So it meant that people, you took that 6 months to train people and get them up to the standards that you want. And I think these days, you'd be lucky if you have someone that lasts 6 months. So by the time you're able to bring them up to the standards that you want, they're already gone. They've either jumped off a cliff, jumped into the river, or they've gone off to another job. So I think the whole of society is suffering from that. And that's why the Tesco checkout shelves, I think you still need an element of training. You need a bit of pride, a bit of detail to your work, so that, as you say, you're not just throwing the products onto the shelves. Instead, you're placing them in the correct positions. And maybe they probably have merchandisers that have designed how things should be positioned and placed in A, B, C, and D. Are they able to implement all of that within their team in this current climate? Maybe they haven't been able to do so. And that's probably why there is so much you're noticing so many things, Ammar, and I think that's not just in Tesco. I think for me, it's across the board. And those that are not suffering from that, they're the ones that are going to have. They're obviously a step ahead of everybody else.
It's about consistency,
Mm.
yeah, and you know, quality comes with consistency. It's the same thing with routines. It's the same thing with habits. I sit and find myself complaining now about the fact that I'm starting to get a little bit on the midriff. Now, some of that is just because I'm getting old. The other,
Well, not really. I don't think you can blame age.
well, of course, I
I've
can.
seen these dudes on Instagram. They're like all lot older than us, and they've got 6-packs. So they're not blaming their age. So age
6
is
packs of
not the
lager.
reason.
Is that when they're walking along with a 6-pack of lager or something? Is that what you're talking about?
So I don't think it's down to the age. It's a matter of the routine and diet.
So I think I can blame age a little bit.
Possibly, but look, let's why don't we defy that?
Yeah, but equally, it's the key thing is that it's your diet.
Diet is a critical thing, but I think you must have the right form of training. I think the training needs to be balanced based on who you are, your body, the evolution of your body, the injuries and the niggles that you're going to have, which is natural. If you can, and you have to regularly be proactive, and before the niggle starts to become a bigger niggle, tackle that, nip it in the bud by going to the chiropractors, going to the physios, and doing your bit. I think if you have a training program that's suited to you, and your needs and your lifestyle and your diet, then I think you give yourself a better chance. But I think ultimately, I think physical health and mental health it should be a huge part of everyone's daily lives, because without it, how can you get on with your daily life if you're not physically and mentally fit?
Oh, and physically, I am undoubtedly I'm fit. I train every single day, Jeff. Like during the week. I've even started to extend that to a Saturday now. So 6 days a week I train. But it's the fact that I keep falling off the wagon during the week and end up eating something sugary. And I think it's sugar. Sugar is the killer.
Yeah, sugar is what did someone say the other day? Sugar is the hidden something I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, minimize the sugar the best that you can.
All right, yeah. I wish it was just like that. I wish it was just as easy as win the lottery or minimize sugar or here's a wand. Listen, I am one of the most motivated, disciplined individuals. When I want to do something, I do it without like any exception, right? The challenge clearly is that life's challenges, everything that's going on generally, and the world that we're living in, which is accelerating at such a pace, is distracting me, because there's no question. I get up every morning, 4:30, 5. I might get up at 5:30, 6 on a Friday, but generally I'm up at 4:30, 5. Monday to Friday, without fail, I train extensively. I change my training every other week, and we primarily go to bed relatively early. So from that point of view, it works. It's when you realize how big of an impact the diet is and how harder you have to work when you get older, Jeff.
Of course.
As your metabolism slows down.
Yeah, so, I mean, look, and then we just have to we have to understand that, appreciate it. We're not alone, and make sure that we tackle those things, and there's ways to do it. I think you have to adapt. You have to be prepared to adapt in life as you hit a different age range, let's call it. And but I think sometimes it's a bit easier, though, they say, because they suggest that you don't have to do lots and lots of cardio in order to get the shape right. I think you do the weights and the core training. So I think if you know what to do, I think having the right knowledge makes a big difference, because sometimes if you don't have the right knowledge, you'll do all this, you put yourself through all this effort, and the results are not that brilliant because you're not doing the right thing. So if you know what to do for your age category and your injuries, and you're a little bit disciplined, I think you definitely make more inroads in terms of making sure that your health is in a better state than otherwise it would be.
And it goes back to that consistency, Jack, because if my general planning and day-to-day activities were taking place as I planned them to be, then I probably wouldn't reach for a packet of crisps or a bar of chocolate or whatever it is. It's when your routines adrift, right, that you are impacted. So what relevance has this got to quality? This is my point. Because if you trained those people without fail, if you found those people without fail, the challenge going back to staff right now is it's so competitive. There's such a small pool of people that you're already struggling to find good quality or consistently quality driven individuals. And then those that you do find, you're just having to choose what you can get.
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough, and we're trying to come up with solutions. We really don't know what the solutions are at the moment, because unless there's some kind of government support intervention, we're going to be the whole of hospitality is going to really struggle, because without the Eastern Europeans, I think the hospitality is in dire straits at the moment. So I don't know what they're saying. What are the big boys saying? Do they have any plans to tackle this situation with the lorry drivers and all the other madness that's going on? I mean, are they just going to sit there and just let it kind of just continue like this, or do they have some kind of a strategy, and do they understand what's going on at the moment?
That's a good question, Jack. They are looking at, well, the fact is, up until now, furlough is going to come to an end. So that
should never have gone on for so long anyway. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and actually, I've been having this conversation, but there's 3 million people out there, and thousands of employers, which would argue the case. So, from that point of view, it's quite interesting, and it is going to have a big impact. I mean, the big areas. So this week, Boris Johnson, Prime Minister, had rearranged his cabinet, and it was wonderful. Nadeem Zahawi's a good guy.
And is he in the same place?
No, so he's been promoted to Education Secretary, and I think he'll do good there. He's got a wonderful story, and he comes from a diligent, hard-working background where he's worked his way up and through and got a whole host of experience. And it's interesting, right? Because he was an Iraqi refugee, and he's now the Education Secretary.
Interesting.
And I think it's a wonderful
Amazing.
story. I think it's beautiful.
Good on him.
And Anne-Marie Trevelyan has been promoted now. Jaff, she's Anne-Marie's in the cabinet.
Okay, excellent.
As a minister, as a significant minister. And then, so
what's Anne-Marie's position, Ammar?
I think she's the international development minister for international development.
That's good, isn't it?
Someone
that we've known quite well over the years and had a number of lunches with Anne-Marie, which is always straight talking and she always listens.
Yeah. No, she is. She's a great advocate for our region. So she's the International Trade Secretary, is what she is.
Excellent.
And given the importance of international trade, I think it's wonderful. So anyway, so lots of stuff going on. Coming back to COVID, and there clearly some challenges and concerns. They are now looking to enforce more of the COVID vaccine approach, and certainly in places like Scotland, unless you're vaccinated, you can't, double vaccinated, you can't go to a variety of places and spaces, which is interesting. But yeah, it's challenging times. What is going to happen around skills? We are going to be impacted from now. Christmas is going to be significantly impacted, Jeff. So what's your biggest pain right now?
The team, just being able to recruit individuals. We don't mind if we have to train them, but the problem is we don't even get the opportunity to train them because they don't last the length of time that you need to be able to get them suitably trained. Right. So they're coming on the last 2 days, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and they just can't cope with service and the details that you want. And we're not expecting anything beyond what we've expected in the past. It's just, I think the new generation, they don't have the, I just feel like they don't have the mental toughness to deliver what we expect. And I think that's a huge challenge. I've just been to London for a couple of days and I went to some outstanding venues and they're so impressive, so impressive. And we're a million miles away from them, So we know we have our own goals, how we want to develop and really develop the standards that we have at the moment. But we can't do it without the team being on board and being able to train them in a way that significantly so that we can deliver those standards. And that's what really is really frustrating. But on the same token, obviously we're still very new. We're not even, we only opened in the end of May, so it's only been a few months. So I guess, but we want to just, we want to move forward like a rocket, but we have to maybe stop that and appreciate that we might be going too fast for the team, and we have to take the team with us, and we have to be a little bit more patient, which is, we don't want to be. But if this is the situation at this moment in time, it's a situation at this moment in time. So the recruitment is the biggest headache of all.
Is it?
Yeah.
And that's what everybody is complaining about right now, aren't they?
I think obviously a few months ago, the biggest headache was this the track and trace app. That was we're just knocking out all of our team. All of a sudden, 6 people was down, and obviously then you have that people that got COVID or they knew someone who got COVID and all of that stuff. That seems to have settled down a tad. So maybe the vaccinations have settling those things down. So really, in terms of my worries are, though, like we were discussing, if there's going to be another bloody lockdown, if they do another lockdown, obviously, I mean, we survived the lockdown, but it doesn't come, it comes with its kind of issues that it creates the business. Of course it does. So I don't know what the government's thinking or not thinking, but surely they can't be thinking about more lockdowns.
I don't think they are, and they're going to do everything they can to prevent one. In fact, he almost said at the outset there wouldn't be one. Challenge is that we are potentially at the behest of the virus. So if all of a sudden, I mean, it would have to be extreme. So look, they've already changed a number of the rules and the guidelines. Jaff, the R rate, which was a key measurement around how fast the virus was spreading and how high it was, people were getting it, they had said it had to be below 1 for them to come out of lockdowns, right? So previously, this was a key measure for us to come out of lockdowns. And now that's been adjusted and they're accepting it to be between 1 and 1.5, right?
Okay.
Because it's just accepting the fact that people are going to get it, we're in a better place to deal with it and such like. The biggest challenge coming up for us now, and we're starting to see a lot of this, Jaff, I don't know if you've experienced this either within the family or in fact out of the more broadly or widely, is that people are starting to get unwell and nothing to do with COVID. So there's more bugs going around, there's more viruses, there's people getting different types of ailments. So everything that we were protected by wearing face masks, social distance, enhanced hand gel and cleanliness, and because people aren't doing that as much or at all, we're starting to see a sharp rise in general issues and challenges, even to the point whereby our 2-year-old was sent home from nursery yesterday with a bug, a sickness bug. She's never had a sickness bug. You know, so things like that. And if you couple those things with coronavirus and COVID, then clearly we're in a significantly poor place.
Well, look, we can just hope for the best, that everyone, you know, remains healthy, and we have to try and continue with life, though, don't we, Ammar? We can't just be in lockdowns and stuff like that as an ongoing, because it's just not healthy for anybody. But I mean, it is so tough. We're in such a tough era of the world. I mean, what on earth do you do other than just try and get on with it with everything around? There's nothing else that we can do, because we just can't sit at home. You know, we've got livelihoods, we've got mortgages, we've got bills to pay. There's so much need. There's so many issues that lockdown itself creates. And if you imagine, surely they can't be thinking about this furlough as an ongoing thing and continuing it and stuff. So if there's no furlough, I don't think there can be a lockdown, because how is there gonna be a lockdown and no furlough?
Yeah.
That would be interesting if there was lockdown and no furlough, but I think people would be out in the streets if that was the case. So yeah.
Well, yes, potentially, but the point of the matter is, is that equally, the government can only do so much, can't it?
Of course. So they can't do a lockdown. They're just going to let it be. And we gotta. I mean, the whole thing about the lockdown was that, oh, okay, there's going to be pressure on the hospitals, right? But the amount of money, the amount of trillions they spent on furlough, they could have built 50 new hospitals. You know, so I don't know. Let's just. My view is that we have to continue with lives and accept COVID and get on with it and deal with it. I know people that have got COVID, and it was just like the flu, so they were okay after 10 days.
Okay.
So it wasn't that big. It wasn't that big, massive change to them. Ordinarily, they would have been back into work after 2 days or 3 days, but because it's COVID and the rules are to stay for 10 days, they stayed up for 10 days.
Yeah.
So it was no different to what it would have been as a flu. So, you know, let's hope that because people are vaccinated, there must be something that must be happening that's good if all these people are vaccinated. I mean, the spread must have, I don't know, it still baffles me though, how things...
What baffles you, Jeff?
What baffles me is that if everyone's been double vaccinated, then why is there talks about lockdowns and we're not being able to control the virus and this, that, and the other? You know, surely it should be more under control now. Nearly the whole country is vaccinated. Everyone's had the opportunity to get vaccinated.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I mean, look, I don't think lockdown is the way forward at all. We just got to, you know, accept it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm not. I don't disagree with anything that you're saying, and we're coming up to the end of the show. Thing is, you know, if everybody continues to do their bit and support one another and protect one another, then naturally we'll be hopefully in a better place. But in the meantime, you know, let's make sure that everybody continues to do what they have to and need to do. And you know, coming back to customer relationships, let's develop the best relationships we can, you know, and support our customers however we are able to do, because there needs to be some realism around that as well. Wonderful. You've been listening to Ammar and
Jalf
live on our weekly radio show. We'll be here next week. We'll be talking about the ABC Awards. Have Fatima Patel back on, who's going to be talking and run through the agenda as well. So until next week, it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Take care. Bye.